We're in 1 Thessalonians 2:9, and what we have here is we have the American Standard King James on the top and the Greek down below. And as we're studying this, remember this is probably Paul's first epistle to write. It was written the earliest of all his epistles, and we need to kind of get a background in it because it has some very important information in it. So I'll tell you what let's do. Let's do this. I want to pick on Jerry because he's right here with me. And would you go down to the cursor, Jerry, down to Nuktos.
Okay. Mnemon uete gar adelphoi ton kopon hemon kai ton mokthon. And I said, for to call to mind, brethren, the labor of us and the travail of us. No, the labor of us and the travail. What is it? Yeah.
All right. This word remember, the name monete, is either indicative or imperative. So when we're looking at it, we need to ask ourselves, could it be imperative mood? Is he telling them to remember, or as the King James has it, saying ye remember? And the American Standard does too. Does anyone have another translation that has it as an imperative mood, by any chance?
I think he's asking them to call to mind. But he might be saying the other two, I guess.
So here's the problem with it. The Greek will allow either to be the case. And when we're looking at it, we need to kind of throw away how the translations have taken it and look at it very carefully. I think either interpretation would fit the rest of the Bible. I don't see how it would be any contradiction for him to be commanding them to remember. But it could very easily be the indicative, and that's how most of the translations, I believe, have taken it. So he says, you remember, or he might be telling them to remember. You command them to remember. And our labor. Now, this word labor here is a stronger word than work. And what we have here is kopos, or kopon, to kopon. And notice it has the article. So it's talking about the particular labor that they did, and this is a toilsome labor. Thayer gives synonyms, and one of the synonyms is kopos, mokos, mokthos, ponos. And he lists all of these here, and I have it right here. But our word here is fatigue, working very hard, making you tired. All right?
I think I put wearisome labor, but I forgot to use the word wearisome in it.
Wearisome is probably implied by the meaning of the word itself, I would think. Anybody else look at it at all there? But I want you to notice before I get, and I'll let you answer my question. I'm going to forget this, but on kopos that I've highlighted here, let me highlight it a little better, you can see it. And then mokthos are both synonyms here in this point that on page 355 of Thayer. And so mokthos is the second word for travail. So when we look at these, Thayer defines them for us. Now, how does he define mokthos? Well, mokthos is poetic to hardship. So we grew weary in our work, and it was a hard thing that we went through, something difficult or hard, difficult labor. Well, what was happening there in Thessalonica when they came?
They were being fought with by the Jews and stuff, but they also had to make their own living.
Yeah, had to make their own living, Jerry says, but they also were being greatly opposed and by the Jews, some of the Jewish people. And so I think you have to look at the context of Book of Acts and see what was going on. That will help to explain it. All right. Or working night and day.
Well, we haven't done that one yet.
Okay. So let's go on. And now then, let's go down from there. Boy, let me see. Laboring. Let's just do this part right here. All right. Just take that part, if you will, there. Chris, please.
Okay. Nuptos, Gar, Kai, Amos, Ergozomenoi. I put from night, or for, from night and day, we worked.
Okay. This is what part of speech, this last word here.
I put that as a participle, present participle, middle. I wasn't really sure how to put an ing with that. We were working, maybe.
For working. American Standard has it for working night and day, or laboring. Have you ever heard of tools that are ergometric?
Yes.
And they fit the hand, or they're made to work with the body of the person using the tool. And so it's from two Greek words, and the word ergozomai is the verb here for work, and then metron is to measure. So ergometric is measured out to work well with and generally the tools would be with the human body. So working, and it is the middle passive form. So again, we don't know whether it's middle or passive, but notice I underline middle in my notes here. I think it's middle, but that's my interpretation. I think they were causing themselves to work or working to support themselves.
By choice.
By choice.
Yeah, that's how
night and day. We'll see why they were laboring night and day in just a moment. Does that help everybody? Any questions or comments? So it is not wrong for a preacher to support himself. Other verses show it's not wrong for a preacher to be supported by the church. And I think situations can change, and the situation can be such that it's expedient not to work. Other times it's expedient to work. Right? Preacher doesn't feel compelled to tickle anybody's ears if he's not being paid. Okay, he's more free, and a preacher shouldn't be afraid of preaching the truth, but sometimes it might be hard. Preaching, working night and day. That's probably a figure of speech. They're working quite long hours, probably. Right? All right, let's try this. And can you take the rest of the, all right, just take this. Yeah, just take the rest of the verse if you would there. James, please. James?
Sorry, I had it on mute. Prostome epibaresai tina humon ekeruxamen e sumas to euangelion tu theu. And this starts out with a infinitive with an article which we discussed previously. So I translated that in order that we might not be a burden to any of you, We are proclaiming to you the gospel of God.
Okay?
And it's an overburden, not just a burden.
And so let's look at the word burden in just a minute. But why does he have may here instead of ooh?
Because it might not overburden anyone, but it might.
Point out something here. May never goes with an infinitive. I mean, ooh never goes with an infinitive. May always goes with an infinitive. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right? In order not to burden. Now, the word burden that Jared pointed out here, it's an overburden. And what we have here, now look at my word here. I'm going to break it apart. We have epi and bareo. And baros is a burden. Bareo is the verb form of it. Epi is upon. So let's come over here to the lexicon that I've got here. And let's go to beta. There it is. And right here, we see the word here, bareo. That's our word, that's a verb. Then we have bareos, that's an adverb of manner. And then we skip Barnabas. And we take baros, noun form, heavy weight, see, a real heavy weight. Baruno is a verb form, the overcharge. So it's all from barus. It is a violent, a cruel, a stern weight. See, so it's a heavy weight. Now, let me point out, if you go to the 6th chapter of Galatians, you'll see two words employed there. And the King James, unfortunately, translates them both the same way, and they're different words. And so that gets into another study of this. But this is an oppressive weight, all right? Not just a normal weight. Be like me trying to carry a V8 engine on my back, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the EPIs intensifies it.
Yes, the epi does intensify it. And barrel itself is a heavy, oppressive weight, and this is even heavier. It's a burden upon a burden. Very burdensome. Right? But not burden them. Now, let me point out something. What if these people a lot of them were slaves? And Paul was wanting them to support him. They didn't get paid anything for what they were doing. They just barely got sustenance from their masters. So I don't know what their situation was, but I pointed out that Greeks kind of looked down upon someone who got paid for teaching, whereas the Romans didn't. And so this was largely Greek-speaking people. So it might be several factors involved. The Bible just doesn't tell us. Right? Right? The aorist in the present infinitive, let's go back and see what kind of infinitive it is, because we need to look at this. This is an aorist infinitive. All right, let's look at what we see here. And it's an aorist infinitive. I'm sorry, I went too far. Dana and Manny say it is well to notice particularly the difference between the aorist and present infinitive. The aorist infinitive denotes that which is eventual and particular, while the present infinitive indicates a condition or a process. So this is not a process, it's something that is particular, a particular thing. And so it wouldn't be a particular burden upon them. That was his main reason. It shows here in my judgment that Paul did not want to place even one single burden upon them. I think by the use of the aorist. That's how I interpret it. Any questions or comments there? I won't place any burden, not even one burden upon you. Okay? All right.
Because that would have been an overburden for them, probably.
Yeah,
Obviously.
it would have been an overburden for them. Might be that they were poor, or that they were even, many of them were slaves. They had nothing to give. I think the Lord, whenever they had nothing and they would have given, the Lord knows the heart, and He'll count their willingness to give as if they had given. I think there's a passage or two that tells us that. We preached, and of course this is Caruso, but it's Arist, unto you the gospel of God. Now the word gospel means good news, of course. And so I translated this for you, brethren. Remember, brethren, our labor and travail for working night and day in order not to burden any of you, we preach unto you the gospel of God.
What was the source on your comments regarding the aorist and present infinitive? I didn't catch that.
And Manny's intermediate Greek grammar.
Oh, okay.
If you have the notes on Romans, the bibliography at the end of the Romans notes cites that source.
Okay, thank you.
Most of these will be cited in the back of that. I'm probably going to put a bibliography of sources cited at the end of this when I put 1 Thessalonians together. I may wait until I have 2 Thessalonians to put the two books together. Might be the way I'll do it. Okay?
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. Now then. All right. I'm going to pick on Freddie. A little short reading here, Freddie.
Okay.
I'll go back to Jerry and have him to finish the verse. That's kind of a break.
Okay. Who made Martyr praise fails. So that would be nominative plural, second person, and that would be ye are witnesses and God.
Okay. So, what is an elliptical statement? We've talked about that concept. Anybody help us
Where a
here?
verb's implied.
A word is implied. In this case, a verb is implied. So, what verb is implied?
The one Freddie put in there, are.
Are. Now, I've got good evidence for that. We've argued for this in the past. What case is the word humace? You gave it to us there, Freddie. What case is it, humace? That pronoun.
Nominative plural.
Nominative plural. All right. What case is the word witnesses?
Witnesses would be the same thing, wouldn't it?
It'd be the same thing, nominative plural. That's correct.
No.
What about the word God?
Sales would be
You can tell by the article.
oh God, I'm not
Again.
Nominative singular, wouldn't it?
yeah, it'd be singular, yeah.
Okay, so what's the function of the nominative case? There are two basic functions of it. Help us out, anybody.
They're both equal witnesses.
Okay? They function as subject and what else?
Predicate.
Nominative. All right? And so the word humace is always emphatic, that pronoun. And that's right on the middle, about in the middle of the screen there, from Thayer. So ye are witnesses and the God. So you witnesses and the God, literal. Now, if we have here, if you is the subject, and it seems to be the subject, you is the subject, I think martyres is a predicate nominative. And basically what he's saying is the predicate nominative, the object of the being verb is a predicate nominative. Remember, we went through that. The word eimi takes its object in the nominative case. And ginomai also does too. And so that's why I say the word are is implied, and the King James put it in italics, but the American Standard didn't even put it in italics. They just put it in. Probably because of this rule, because the predicate nominative is the object of a being verb. So they inserted the being verb are. Okay, does that make sense why they did it? And I think the King James, of course, put it in italics, but I think it's implied by the structure, right? You're witnesses. God is, you're witnesses and God is witness. Right.
Is the word order giving us a particular emphasis then?
Calling on them first and then God. Of course, God could serve as a witness through miraculous gifts and through the miracles that were worked. And so they were witnesses, and this may be almost an oath, like he's saying, you're witnesses, God is a witness also. I call God as a witness. Okay.
It goes with the previous one though, because they're supposed to remember those things, and if they remember them, then they can witness to that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So let's go back up to the prior part. Other questions? All right. So whose turn was it to read? Was it back to Jerry or?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, Jerry, can you take it to the end of the verse?
Okay. Hosios, Kai, Dikaios, Kai, Amen, Tos, Humen, Tois, Pistu, Usen, Egenathemen. How, I put piously instead of holily, how piously and righteously and blamelessly we were with you believing ones.
All right.
With you, the ones believe. Who believe.
Okay, this has a very interesting, I think that's a good rendering, Jerry. What part of speech is this second word? Now, I'll highlight it for you. Let me highlight it here. Hosios.
It's an adverb.
It's an adverb of manner, isn't it? Mm-hmm. See? Now, let me point out, if you have my Roll of Women book, volume 1, I have a chapter devoted to the word holy. There are 2 Greek words for holy, and hagios is one, hosios is the other one. And this one here, you really need to study that in more detail, because you can see some different aspects, and they're both translated holy, unfortunately. But there's a complete difference in the meaning of them, okay? And so this is a person that will go beyond what is required and look into the intent of God as best he can, and he'll go the second mile. And I think the second mile, going the second mile is basically what's involved. He'll go that second mile. All right. I've likened it to this right here. I'm driving down the highway. The speed limit sign is 65 miles per hour. And I look out and I see some children playing beside the road. What do? Legally, I can keep on driving 64 miles per hour and not be breaking the law. The letter of the law would say I would not be breaking the law. But what's the danger? Little children might do what?
Run right out in front of you.
Run right out in front of you. So first I get off my gas, start slowing down a little bit, and I watch and make sure that I could swerve if a child ran out in front of me and hit my brakes. And the slower I'm going, the less likely I am to hit the child. So I will go, even though the law didn't require me to, I will go ahead and be careful that I don't cause harm. And I think we need to look at things that way in our dealings with people, in our everyday life as well. And I think that's what he's talking about here. Are there questions about that?
And that's the Hosios.
That's Hosios, the one that's highlighted. Okay? And now the and Chi. So Chi puts things that are equal, so they're of equal rank. Dikaios, that's another adverb of manner.
Mm-hmm.
This is the word righteously, and so I apply the same standard to everybody that I apply to everybody else, including myself. So I don't treat people and prefer one over the other. All right. All right. Now, the next one is amimtos,
Blamelessly.
blamelessly. Let's look at how it's defined down here. That is blamelessly, so that there's no cause that anyone can blame me. Now these fit together, don't they? If I treat everybody by the same standard, there's not much that people can say about me that's wrong.
Unless they make it up.
And if I am very careful that I go even giving up some of my liberty sometimes just for the sake of the salvation of souls. See?
Like working night and day.
Yeah, like working night and day, as Paul did. Right? We behaved ourselves. Now this right here, how did you translate this right here, Jerry? Beginning, Theman.
We are being.
We are being. Okay, this is from genomai, to exist or begin to be.
Or were being.
Or to become.
Yeah.
But it's aorist. So we're being or we're becoming. See, we're being. That's good rendering. We came to be or we became, and holily, justly, and unblameably in our conduct or in our actions. That's what we became.
Towards the believers.
Toward you. And this is what part of speech here? Tois pistuo osin. Pistus.
Present active indicative is to believe.
It's a participle, isn't it?
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I didn't get a participle out of it. I thought it would be because I put it believing, and then I didn't. When I looked it up, it said present active indicative, but I probably looked on the wrong line.
Well, it could be both the way it's worded. But with the article with it, it's got to be a participle.
Yeah, but I didn't see the word participle on it. I looked it up wrong then. I probably spelled it wrong when I looked it up. So it is a participle.
Yeah, it's a present.
Well, that makes more sense because that's the way I wanted it to be.
Okay.
The ones believing is what I would have had.
Now, remember, those in the Monday night class, we just introduced participles. Participles function in two ways. Now, those that have had more Greek, how are the two ways they function? They function as what and what?
Adjective or adjective?
Adjectives and adverbs. Okay, good. Adjectives and adverbs. And so with an article, it's automatically functioning as an adjective. Without the article, it still might be functioning as adjective, but it will never have the article when it's functioning as an adverb. But it may be without the article and still be functioning as an adjective. But all participles with articles are automatically adjectival, functioning as adjectives. So this is literally the ones believing. The ones believing. And it's present tense. Okay? Any questions? I translated it this way. You are witnesses, and God is also, and of course put in italics, how holily and righteously and unblameably we behaved ourselves, and I footnoted that, toward you, the ones believing. Paul sets forth how a preacher should conduct himself holily, righteously, and unblameably. 3 things there. All right. All right, any questions? All right, let's try. Jerry, did you read last?
Mm-hmm.
Are we back to Chris?
I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do this. Huh.
No breaks.
There's no breaks in it. That's a pretty lengthy reading there. Can you handle that there for us?
Well, I'll do my best.
Okay.
Kath aper oidate hos hina eka stone humon hos pater tekna iaitu perikalauntes mumas kai paramuthuminoi kai martur omenoi. So I have just as, and here's the literal, just as you know how each one of you as a father, children his own, exhorting you and comforting and charging.
Okay. So just as you know is what tense, everybody? You can cheat, it's on the screen.
Oh,
What word did you add?
Oidate, you know,
Perfect.
it's perfect tense. So what does that mean then?
you knew and you still know.
Yeah. So they've come to knowledge, and they came to knowledge in the past, and they still know. Now, you know how we did 3 things here that a father does for his children. Now, I believe in what I call God's economy of operations, that God does things, and sometimes he teaches more than one lesson at a time. For instance, in the Old Testament, he told the Jews not to muzzle the ox. And of course, it was for the benefit of the ox, okay? But he taught a lesson from it in the New Testament, not to muzzle the ox. And that expression is used twice. So we get more than one lesson. Now, Paul here is conducting himself as a father would with his children. So what 3 things should a father do for his children? He should do what?
Exhorting and
He should exhort,
consoling.
and comfort or charge. Comfort. That word comfort could be exhort as well, couldn't it? Because the Greek word could be translated either way. Okay?
Mhm.
What else?
I put testifying or teaching really, but I put testifying or witnessing.
All right.
But
Now, have you ever told your children, here's a mistake I made in the past, and I don't want you making it? That's a hard thing to tell children, and admit you made mistakes. Maybe that's the testimony we have, but this is, actually, there's 2 words here with the idea of testimony, all right? Charging, comforting, charging, okay, all right? And this is, the 3rd one is to charge them. Let's look at this word for charging, okay? I call it the principle of parallel concepts, where God teaches 2 things. He teaches what the preacher did, and he teaches what a father would do at the same time. We get 2 lessons out of it. Okay? Children are different in personality, and they should be treated as individuals. Boys are different than girls. Boys develop more slowly, both physically and mentally and socially, than girls. And testosterone and estrogen cause people to think differently and act differently. Not only the bodies different, but the brains think differently. I believe we can show evidence of that. So a wise father will give his or her proper attention to that child. He'll discern their needs. Try to treat them as individuals, as a father with his own children. Okay? And that's from parakaleo, exhorting you. There's two aspects of parakaleo, and one is to exhort, and the other is to console. We don't know which it is here, but it might be safe to take it as both exhort and console when they need consolation. Okay, I couldn't argue against that idea. It could be both. Encouraging. Now let's look at that word. That's an interesting word here because it's paramutheomai. And so to speak to or address, the way to admonish them, to speak from muthos, to exercise a gentle influence by words. In other words, you're not going to be harsh with them. To soothe, comfort, or console. Does this give us some ideas of how we ought to treat our children? I must say, when I was younger, I perhaps didn't do as well as I should have with my children. But I can learn. You can learn from these passages. All right, any questions? And then testifying. I think it might be giving the children the benefit of what the father has experienced in his life. Paul was testifying as to what he had seen and knew from evidence, say, by experience. And so you might give the children benefit of your experience. And there are many things that are in the book of Proverbs that if we look at them, we can draw the reasonable and wise principles from it and apply them to our lives. And a father should exhort his children to do good and abstain from evil, encourage them to do good, give them the benefit of his life experiences, both negative and positive experiences. They can learn from them. It's far better to learn from other people's mistakes than to have to learn them yourself by committing them. All right? Any questions? Some people don't learn from other people's mistakes, and that's unfortunate. But maybe some will. Any comments, questions? Okay. I cited this, as you know how we dealt with each one of you, as a father with his own children. So notice it's individual, each one of you, exhorting you and encouraging you and testifying. Pretty much like the American Standard King James rendered. Let's try to finish verse 12 and then we'll be through for the night. And I don't remember who read last. Chris, I think, did. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. All right. Let's go, if you will, here. Freddie, can you take down to the word God? All right?
Okay. Yes. Ato peripatensai humes exios to fail.
Okay.
And
Ato peripatesi is what?
for to have walked.
Or to walk. What part of speech is peripatesi?
Look,
It's on the screen up here.
yeah, I see it right here. Aorist first infinitive.
Yes, the first aorist infinitive, correct.
Yes.
So it's an infinitive. Now, what does ace toe with an infinitive do here for us?
So, okay, purpose may be expressed in 6 ways according by the accusative and articular infinitive with ace and pros. Ace 2 with an infinitive is a common construction. Here, ace 2 expresses purpose.
So it could be purpose or result. It's going to be one of those. Now you need to kind of look it over. Was it the purpose that they should walk worthy of God, or was it the result? Or could either one fit?
I think it was the purpose of doing all those things he did, treating him like a father would treat a child, was for that purpose.
Yeah. Jerry's argued he thinks it's the purpose. Anybody agree with him, disagree, want to make a comment? All right. I think purpose is a good possibility. Result is also a possibility. I'm going to be wishy-washy, but I'm going to go with purpose, probably the most likely. What is this walking all about? Peripateo. We've talked about that in other classes. It's what?
Walk around, how you walk around each day.
And so
Manner of life.
Manner of life. And oxios, our verb, our adverb here. Notice the ending, the os ending. What is the os ending in Greek adverbs? It's the same as the ly ending in English adverbs. So what does that mean? It's the adverb of what?
Manner.
Adverb of manner. I think that's what you said, James. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the omega sigma ending and an adverb is an adverb of manner. Notice the definition down here. He defines it here as suitably, worthily, in a worthy manner of. So it's an adverb of manner. Okay? Like ly endings. Surely, it's a manner. Truly, in a true manner, so forth in English. So worthily of God in a worthy manner. Could it be of what God would have us to do, or could it be of what God does? Again, that's kind of a hard question to answer, isn't it? Either one would harmonize the rest of the Bible. Which one do you think? Well, I think it's probably worthy of how God would have us to walk. Okay? All right. That's my interpretation. I think that's the most reasonable. And what does he tell us about God? What is two kaluntos? Hey, now we got down to that. We hadn't read it yet. Oh, two kaluntos. Now then, this will be, James, can you read that? And then we'll be through for the night.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Tu kaluntos humas estein eautu basileon kai doxan.
Okay.
And I translated that as the one calling you unto his kingdom, to his own kingdom and glory.
Okay. And so what part of speech is kaluntos?
Participle.
Okay, it's a participle. And so the one calling, and it's a present active participle. All right. So there's what we have right there. So he's the one calling you. Calling you where?
Unto his own kingdom.
And of course the glory as well. Now, the word kai could be even. And so the kingdom might be what you're called to, and the glory might be linked with the kingdom. Again, it's just a little bit of difference in emphasis. So even, kai could be even, and sometimes translated that way. I'm going to take it as kingdom and glory as two separate things, however. All right? Any questions or comments? All right.
And they would have to gain the kingdom, and that would gain glory as part of the consolation or the comforting or too that he just talked about.
If they're walking worthily, when they're walking worthily, they're going to be in the kingdom, and they're going to receive the glory.
It's the encouragement they can get.
So I translate it to the end that you should walk worthily of God, and I put a dash, the one calling you into his own kingdom and glory. Okay? Are there comments or questions? All right. Now, next week we'll have class and then we'll break until August. And so we will have a break. And what I'd like for you to do for the assignment for the summer, in case you're not here next week, is be sure and be studying ahead and try to get as much of First Thessalonians, and we'll get right into Second Thessalonians as soon as we finish First Thessalonians. Okay. Any questions or comments? All right. Let me do this.